There's Gina.
There's Gina. Hi, Gina.
Sharon.
Oh, hi, Shannon. Yeah,
It's a
I haven't. Yeah,
reunion.
yeah, it is.
Shannon and Sharon.
Yeah, we've been so busy. We
And
haven't like
Kim.
met in a while.
Yeah. No, and actually true. And I think we were talking, me and Bobby, one day. I don't know. I was on the 14 freeway, I know for sure. Like there's so many things happening, and then we're like, hey, we need to, there's a lot of things coming up, and so that's when we're like, no, we got to do this meeting.
Yeah,
ASAP.
we
Well, you
wanted
know
to make
what?
sure we did it before CCCAOE because I know a
Yeah.
lot of us
Mhm.
are going to that. So yeah.
And I dug up the old emails about that top code, ones that give you pimples and a stomachache. Because I found from Janice, because a long story short, I put mine through. Everyone agreed, yeah, that's a good idea. And then the chancellor's office stopped it, and they wouldn't accept. And then I said, well, you don't count anything in data mart and this and that unless we have it. They wouldn't. So it's back to what it was. But I have all the rationale and communication I will share with you.
Hey, that's another topic, but I guess we'll let more people come in, and and then we'll let everybody. I think, can we start, Bobby? What time is it? It's 10:03, or do you want to wait a
Yeah.
little bit?
We can start. I'm just dropping the agenda in the chat just in case you guys missed it in the email.
Awesome.
Um
I
yeah.
guess let's formally begin. Sorry, everybody, we were having a conversation nonchalant, Bobby and I, and then we started letting people in. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. And I'm Yadira Arellano. I am work in progress with my partner in crime, Bobby Becka, in the California Community College's teacher preparation programs. And I am from Antelope Valley College, and I will pass the down to Bobby.
Hi, I'm Bobby Becka. Yeah, Yadira and I know each other because we both used to work at El Camino Community College District. We both since switched to different districts. I'm currently at Kern Community College District, and we have 3 colleges, Bakersfield, Saracoso, and Porterville. And a lot of us know each other because we've been working on this TPP stuff for quite a number of years. I moved to California in 2006, and that's when I started working on it. So my role has evolved. I mean, we sort of co-lead this now, but before I was just really involved because I was the grant writer, and so I would help write regional projects, statewide projects, grant applications and things for those kinds of things to support teacher preparation. A lot of people are still joining. I'm sorry, I'm trying to talk and watch the waiting room at the same time. But anyway, I'm happy that you're all here. Sorry it was a last minute meeting, but you know how we are. We're always so busy, we end up scheduling meetings kind of last minute. We have some guest speakers today from the Chancellor's office and from CSU Fresno. If you didn't get the agenda, let me know. I know some people logged in after I dropped it in the chat. I can drop it in there again. So we did have one placeholder for LaCandace's team in case she had something else that wasn't on the agenda. So I'm going to put her on the spot real quick and see if she had something else that she wanted to add to the agenda that we didn't have on there.
Bobby, good morning, everybody.
Morning.
I'm LaCandace Ochoa, in case you haven't met me. I'm a dean here at the Chancellor's Office in the Workforce and Economic Development Division. I oversee Strong Workforce, Perkins, and all of our special projects. If you remember Cynthia McFarland, she was on my team and she retired after 35 wonderful years of service. I miss her. And I also am excited about the opportunity to get engaged with this group. I don't have anything to add, but I did want to recognize my colleagues that are here today, Dawn Davies-Rougeau and Amy Smith, and then turn it over, Dawn and Amy, if there's any kind of opening, welcoming remarks you want to share with the group.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Good morning, everyone. Don Davis Rougeau here from the Chancellor's Office. I'm the new Senior Advisor to Chancellor Christian on Workforce Development and Strategic Partnerships and a little bit of AI. And I'm the special projects that LaCandice manages mostly, so she keeps me in line and on point. So loving the new role, formerly with the Bay Area Community College Consortia, where I spent a lot of time working with Kathleen on this work. I'm a proud graduate from LA Valley College and CSU Fresno, where I did my bachelor's degree and my teaching credential, started my work at Fresno High School over the years. So I just want to thank you all, first of all, and recognize you all for the ongoing work that you've been doing over the years, both with and without support, formal support and institutional support, and continuing to move that work forward. I think it's so important and so critical for our communities, for our youth, and for our state. So thank you for that. And part of my role at the Chancellor's Office with Chancellor Christian is really to drive the Vision 2030 demonstration projects, specifically those that are within the Workforce and Economic Development Division, but also thinking about the through lines to those that are not specific in that division, and really engaging the field. A big part of that is making sure that K-12 partners are continuously recognized as a valuable a piece of this leadership talent pool, and then also engaging our regional consortia and the work that the regional consortia have been doing across the state and over the years, and that includes the human brain trust, as well as the tools and resources and models that you all have created in your regional levels, and then bringing those together in some way as part of our demonstration projects to scale those and provide the financial and other kinds of support that you need to really amplify that work in a way that I know you all have imagined and dreamed of for many, many years. So yeah, just want to thank you for allowing us to be here, and looking forward to continuing joining these conversations as we go forward with this work in partnership. Thank you.
And I wanted to mention that
Amy.
you and Kathleen were next on our agenda anyway to talk about the demonstration project. And
Awesome.
Kathleen's here now, so
awesome. And I'll kick it over to Amy. I know Amy's on the call as well, so if she has anything.
Thanks,
she wants to
Don.
share.
Good morning. Thanks, LaCandice, for including me in today's meeting. So I'm Amy Smith. I'm the Visiting Chief of Planning and Strategic Initiatives at the Chancellor's Office. And I work on a cornucopia of projects across academic affairs, workforce and economic development, and student services. And in that portfolio includes currently working with Renee, who I see just popped on, and the CTC, as I represent the Chancellor's Office on a child development permit work group that's been convened to redesign the structure of that permit. So I'm really excited to be engaged with you all today, as I also help support seeing the Vision 2030 come alive through the Chancellor's Office and then through all the colleges, and just getting to know you all a little bit as I hopped on and hearing the rich history you all have, and obviously amazing work you've been doing over the years. I'm really excited to learn more. So thanks for having us.
Kathleen, did you want to talk next about your demo project?
Sure. Since Don is on this call too, he's gonna chime in and help me. Can I share screen, or I can just talk also? I have a PowerPoint.
Yeah, give me a sec.
Okay.
And Kathleen, if I can just share a little bit of context before you jump into the specificities of the project. So I'm not sure how much you all are aware of the construct of the Vision 2030 and the demonstration project as a concept. So I'd like to just maybe take just a few minutes to kind of share that out. So I think that might be helpful for folks around understanding, how we got here, right? So as you all, I'm sure you all are familiar with the Vision 2030 roadmap, and Dr. Christian's really ambitious goal to use the to reinsert the California community colleges as a central driver of economic development and workforce across our state, but to be doing that with a real intentional lens towards building pathways to low-skilled, underskilled, low-wage, mid-wage workers across our state who have been traditionally minoritized and marginalized in our workforce for all the reasons that we are all fairly aware, and I don't need to reiterate here. And so the intention is how do we use our community colleges as a central driver along with our other partners across the state, whether those are unions, whether that's K-12, our four-year institutions, our corporate partners, et cetera, to really drive that work in a meaningful and an intentional way to provide those kinds of supports that the learners need, both students who graduate, who don't matriculate to any post-secondary opportunities, or those mid-career adult learners who are having to retransition their lives given the shift in our economies, et cetera. And so the intent here is to identify those colleges across our system that are doing work really, really well in a specific area that has been identified as a priority. Bring those colleges together along with their partners to build a blueprint that then can be scaled across the system. So think tier one are those colleges and partners who are front loaded in that work and are going to come together and develop that blueprint and are ready to launch that work collectively. And then the next tier would be those who are very interested in doing that work, ready to do that work, but maybe don't have the resources, the skill sets, the knowledge on how to do that in an impactful and scaled manner. And we would bring them in kind of in the next iteration of those various projects. So a big part of this work is driven by the governor's Recovery with Equity report that was produced during COVID. Of course, that has then trickled down to our Vision 2030 and the Career Education Master Plan, all the different plans that are out there right now, and executive orders, et cetera, right? And so we're just trying to be a major part of driving that work for the system and for the state. And so that's where we are now. And part of that has been looking into the regions to identify those best practices that have already existed. And that's in this case where the early childhood education and the teacher preparation project work has been exemplary. And how do we now scale that? So I'll kick it over to Kathleen.
Thank you so much, Don. I was gonna say that, because I think we are very, very casual. Kathleen knows we were talking and then we just get started, but I wanted to just kind of briefly apologize to you all. Really, the purpose of this meeting was, for this project. And I know some of us are new to this getting together. So wonderful that you explained it to us. And I don't know, Kathleen, if you want to talk a little bit where it started, because, it's been way before, but I'll let you talk about that. And just to let everybody know coming in, it's a little bit of a work that has been happening. And so it finally got a little bit of recognition, and I'll let Kathleen jump in and talk about that.
Yeah, that's good. I can preface it. I have, me, I have some slides, but I can show them in 1 minute. I thank you to Don. Don and I, he's from the San Francisco Bay region, so I'm going to claim him, even though he did work down in Los Angeles. But he is aware of the fact that our region did support this sector through strong workforce funding for many years. And I think we're one of the few regions that had consistent prioritization of the ECE-EDU sector. The most recent level of support has to do with apprenticeship. And I think the message is that when you can have both statewide and regional support for community college programs, things can grow. And we know how to do it. We've been doing it, but we have to share that message. So I think that's my role here, is to really elevate what all we're doing and elevate our connections. And I will be calling on many of you to assist with this project. And so, we have the expertise. And now we need to just show it. And yes, Amy, I join you in to Amy and our other state chancellor's office rep. Might have stopped off, but absolutely wishing Cynthia McFarland the best retirement ever. She was an amazing contract monitor for many of us and a real supporter of teacher preparation. So my heart is just with her as she retires. So let me just share this. And then I'm going to go through this very quickly. And I think the best thing, since you have Dawn, would be to make sure that we have time for questions. So I just put this together to illustrate, and Dawn, your name's on here. So this is your presentation as well as mine. And you and I are both going to answer questions that we are looking at the sector role in Vision 2030. These are kind of some high level goals for that I just went through one of Dawn's many emails and Google Sheets to lift some of these priorities, but how our sector does address the issues of diversity, inclusion, and accessibility by ensuring that we have faculty and teacher diversity. We know that that helps children and our community college students when they're represented in the classroom. Dual enrollment is a priority of this chancellor, and our pathways into teaching are absolutely stronger when we start in high school and we have dual enrollment pathways. And Yadira, I know, is one of the proponents of teaching in high school, has lots of hands-on experience and how that can work. That's how we start our GYO framework. And we have to start when people are younger and they get experience and commitment. There's an element around professional development, the implementation of credit for prior learning. We know that our students, especially our adult students, come with lots of prior learning. And so how we use that to accelerate their pathways is important in our sector. Addressing data gaps. And you all know that our data is problematic. Not of all of our jobs show up in the data, and not of all of our publications can be joined together so we can get a statewide look at our sector. We had a recommendation to the Academic Senate that we'd like to implement some of those recommendations that did pass in 2021, but COVID, I think, delayed really some of the goals of that level of recommendation. So we're going to revisit and then address STEM and CTE teacher shortages. We know there's some discrepancies between minimal quals, and some of these shortages could be alleviated if folks could teach in both sector situations, high school and community college. Then we have to address the community college TPP funding needs in our sector. ACTEP did a great survey of our teacher preparation programs in our colleges and how many are on the precipice of financially not being able to continue to operate, and also have to continue to look for funds to do this important work. Another element of Vision 2030 is really addressing the community college to CSU transfer pattern and looking at reform to make it easier and more seamless and more, you all know that there's some bumps in that road. Increasing participation of low wage earners in apprenticeships, increasing community college apprenticeships, including GYO pre-apprenticeships. Right now, only about 7% of registered apprentices in California are female, and we bring the women in our sector. So if we want to diversify and increase that number, as we move from 100,000 to 500,000 apprentices, we are where the women are. So that's a good goal for us. Explore the successes in our region and the SFA region. The regional joint venture has been a funding priority since 2017. And I think we can learn from what happens when you prioritize a region. Dispel the myths that we're only a low wage sector. We are low wage, but we also have significant numbers of jobs that meet living wages. And then form an advisory committee for the State Chancellor's Office of key experts. And I put including those in ACTEP and Tri-CECE, so we can hear from the field. This is my low wage dispelling myth chart in the San Francisco Bay region. And I like showing this chart because everyone starts clapping. But in our region, we rank 5th in the blue lines are living wage jobs. We are 5th in creating living wage jobs. Now, the orange lines, we are also way out here with 2,723 jobs below living wage. But let's focus on the blue line. We're up there, and we can keep that going. We're not only filled with low wage jobs, and we have to address wages, which is one thing apprenticeships can do. Just a little bit, you probably all know this data, but why our sector is so critical. We ranked 5th in enrollment in degree and certificate completion among the top 10 CTE sector career sectors in the state. We address equity, highest percentage of female students, 83%, 67% of our students are non-white in our programs, and the second highest percentage of economically disadvantaged students. So we not only bring the women, but we bring the people who, number one, would benefit greatly from community college, but also would benefit from careers in teaching, because they can then bring up the children and the youth and the college students in their communities as direct examples and community-based role models and mentors. These are just some of the new apprenticeships that have grown in the San Francisco Bay region. So hats off to the colleges that have taken the plunge. And I think that is one of the reasons why we're a demonstration model, because all these colleges have, and some of them are on this call, have jumped into apprenticeship, and it's not easy being in a non-traditional apprenticeship space. But they are brave, and they are paving the way. And in 10 years, apprenticeships in our sector are going to be no problem, easy peasy. These folks are paving the way. And we just had some recent funding, CAI grant funding approved in our region, and here's our awardees. So pretty significant batch from the San Francisco Bay region. And we even have a few non-community college apprenticeship folks who have ECE, EDU pathways. So I'm done. I wanted to just do that for about 5 minutes. I would rather look at all of you, but I wanted to give you an overview of how I saw Vision 2030 in our role. And again, many thanks to Don, and I'm going to give him a few minutes to speak and give you any additional pieces of advice for all of you, but thank you all. And I am here, I think, to both represent our collective work and to make sure our sector gets the support it needs. So thanks. And Don, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a lot to add, but I do want to allow for some time for questions. Sharon, do you want to raise your question before I jump in? You're on mute.
Sorry about that. I'm always mute. Okay. For the list of apprenticeships, was that mostly preschool or was it elementary?
Both. That was our region, but they are early childhood and education.
But you're not seeing that education is, you know, a minority, right? I mean, we have this, but I'm seeing that it's a different ballgame with elementary. So I'll talk to you. Thanks.
It's definitely more complicated.
Yes. Okay. I'm gonna lower my hand in a minute.
And I think you know, questions like that it's essential to put those types of questions on the table, right? It's because we want to be able to use this brain trust to figure out, you know, how we move towards a resolution of these kinds of big issues, right? And then what resources do we need to bring to the table to actually get them resolved, right? There's one thing for us to say, this is the solution, but there's another thing for us to move the levers to actually make the changes. And some of that, you know, big part of Vision 2030 is policy shifts. What are the necessary policy changes that need to be made for us to be able to move to remove those barriers that are getting in the way of maximizing the work that you all are doing, right? So as always, I think, it should be unstated, but we always have to state that this work is always equity driven, right? And so for me, what I want to share very quickly, and I'll open up for other questions, are just kind of a list of questions that I think about when I think about this work that I think you all should be thinking about as well. And to frame that, this was a presentation that really spoke to what is happening in the Bay region, but I would ask each of you in your respective regions to identify the same kinds of successes and models, right, that exist, so that we can catalog that and then create this statewide effort, right, to move this work within the demonstration project. So the questions that I would ask is, what resources can we as the Chancellor's Office bring to bear on the work, right? And so that is in large part driven by what you tell us you need from us, and then we will go out and try to secure those resources, whether it's support from the Chancellor's Office staff, from the regional consortia, or is it financial support? How do we help support this work through funding streams? Is it partnership with the governor's office, with the labor agency, with CDE? Like, how do we leverage our position in the hierarchy of authority across the state to bring those resources to bear to support the work? I've already mentioned the question around what policy changes can we make? Like, if you have, given all the work that you've done over the years, I'm sure you have a laundry list of policy changes that you have been struggling with, right? And so can we catalog those changes and then create a strategy around how to move on those changes with the expertise that we have? Where are the incumbent workers that exist, right? Are there organizations and agencies that we can partner with to bring them into the pipeline for early childhood education or teacher preparation, right? Partnering with unions and things of that, structures of that nature, so that we can really move the work quickly for a large number of workers in our state. And that is, one of the pressing things for us is, like, we need short-term immediate wins, and in order for us to be able to continue to get the kind of support that I just described, right, from the Board of Governors, from the labor agency, from the governor himself, et cetera, right? So, and it doesn't have to be huge wins, right? Like, we're not trying to solve the problem in 6 months, but are we able to, in 6 months, show we have moved on this in this meaningful and measurable way, and then over the next 6 months, based on that, these are the other things that we're able to accomplish, and then over the next 6 months, over an 18-month period, et cetera. The next question I would ask is, and I know you all have all this, but how do we bring it together? And you may already have, right? So I make no assumptions about what isn't done already. So just want to be clear on that. What's the landscape analysis work that's necessary, right? So Kathleen talked about the need for data collection. So, how do we, what support do you need in order to do that data collection, to inform the work that is necessary? What are the tools and platforms and things like that you've all created, and for lack of a system-wide support you've had to do recently in order to drive your work, your individual work? And then can we scale those? And then, how do we think about credit for prior learning, credit for prior experience, like moving non-credit to credit? Like, how do we think about those structures? And there's a whole demonstration project focused on credit for prior learning, and within that, non-credit to credit, right? So how do we think through that piece and bring that to that demonstration project, and bring the work of that demonstration project to this demonstration project, right? So there's some cross-fertilization of the various projects. We also have one on apprenticeship, separate project on apprenticeship, so vice versa, right? Very similar type of effort. And then how do we leverage the ongoing work of the K-16 collaboratives, right? Most of the K-16 collaboratives have identified education as an area of priority. How do we leverage that work? And of course, the regional consortia. And that in and of itself would be a unique and separate strategy, right? Like, how do we how do we get the regional consortia to leverage their existing resources to support this work, whether it's, again, human capital, release time to do the work, right? We're fortunate in the Bay that kind of the philosophy in the Bay with the regional directors has always been, here's your work plan, but follow the work, right? Go where the work is necessary for you to do, right? So, and then the last thing I'll say is, what are your aspirational items, right? What are the things that you have imagined in an ideal world, in an ideal situation, could happen, should happen, might happen? And we should put those things on paper and really think about how we move towards actualizing those things, without fear of failure, without fear of what's happened in the past, the resistance in the past, but really about like, how are we going to now take this new direction, this new vision, this new leadership that has been assembled in all the different agencies that are ready to make the change. And I think that we're at such a critical point in time. I think every major shift and change that I've been part of in my career has always been dependent in part upon having the right leaders in the right seats, in the right agencies, with the right mindset that all say yes. And I feel like that's where we are right now. We have that type of leadership, collaborative, and let's take advantage of it to move that work, right? So one of the conversations that I've had with Heather Latimer, is the Dean of Education at San Jose State, right? They have a 3-year, if you graduate, if you matriculate in from the community college, they will get you out in 3 years with your bachelor's degree, your teaching credential, and your master's degree in 3 years, with full wraparound supports, and even talking about housing now for their students, right? So I said, well, Heather, what do you think about the idea of inserting some type of credential, that a supplemental credential or something of that nature, that would allow a graduate from that program to have their subject matter area credential, but also their CTE credential in a high priority, high demand area, right? So you all, I'm just going to throw that on there. People's brains are probably spinning right now and swirling, but that's how I think. I don't know the answer to that, but I want to put it on the table and let you all think, is that even a thing? Is it even possible? Am I just off in left field somewhere? So, and then the other piece that the last thing I would add is how do we think about the use of technology to help us drive this work, right? Like AI, generative AI is a big topic right now. It is one of the future of learning, is one of our core 3 areas of work in the Chancellor's office. And so how are we thinking about the kinds of ways to apply AI and generative AI to drive this work? And we are working with partners. They're not partners yet, but we're working with agencies, tech agencies like Amazon, for example, who really have partnered with a lot of small companies to build out these tools. And so we want to be able to think about how that technology can be applied to our work in a thoughtful, meaningful, and impactful way, with equity at its core, right? So for our learners, and then eventually for their students that they'll be teaching. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. What I wanted to ask, and I don't know, I think the question that I have, and I don't know if all the other colleges have the same question, is, and I'm going to just say it out there because everybody knows I'm going to say how I see it, and how is this looking? How are we going to be supported? For those of us who already probably have a teacher preparation program, what does that look like? So what is needed? And I know I met with Bobby and Anthony last week, and I think that was, one of the questions for us, some of us that already have, some of the things working. How do we get support? Or what is it? Do we email the chancellor? Is there something that they're going to give us funding? How is that going to look?
You email me, and then we will figure that out. So we are contracted. We have some technical assistance providers that are vendors that contract with the Chancellor's office. So they will help us with working through like some of the data collection, doing some of that landscape analysis, right? Figuring out where they're helping figure out where the incumbent workers are that we may need to partner with in order to bring them into into the work and to get them onto the path, right? So we will be able to leverage some of those resources, including some financial resources that may be available as well. So a big part of this is understanding what the needs are, and then what the goals and outcomes are over that 6, 12, 18-month period. And then how can we leverage the resources that we have in-house at the
Right.
Chancellor's office to support that work.
Right. So that was one of the questions I had. And another one is, apprenticeship is looking big, and I guess it's like a buzzword. And this is something that Kathleen knows. It's been years that we've been, especially when it comes to dual enrollment, I'm big, like Kathleen mentioned, I've always said it, if you want the students to be successful, we got to start early and we got to start with dual enrollment. And one of the biggest things that, at least for us, and I'm speaking as an Antelope Valley College, I'll allow Kim to introduce herself and say something. She's the department chair. And we are working, we're small, but we're mighty. It's three of us, but it's the three of us are in the same page, same thought process. And we look at, we need an apprenticeship. So that's how students learn. This is how we get them out there. And I know I'm preaching to the choir when I say that just because, our students, for the whatever they see that they're not meeting minimum living wage, it doesn't mean our students stay there. Our students, I'm one of them. I started as a preschool teacher. I'm now a college professor, and there's different things that I do. So I did not stay in that category where they have me placed. And so to me, it's how do we, if we wanted to start an apprenticeship, is that something that it's also going to be of support from the Chancellor's office? Do we email you? And ask you and how we started, because we're currently working on some things right now. And before we move forward, I would really, really, really like to then talk to you and just let you know where we're at with that, because we were going to move forward with it. And I'll let Kim, I don't know if you want to say anything, Kim, regarding
I think that you asked very poignant questions, and I think we just need the guidance. We have the drive. We like she said, we're small but mighty, and of course we have extended faculty as well. And Jane Bowers here has been working with the TAP grant, Gina Peterson as well. So we have a really great team. We just want that support and need that support in place to continue moving forward and move forward in a way that is going to be sustainable. We don't want the glitter. We want the gold. We want to dig for the gold in the rocks. We don't want the glitter that's going to be thrown all over and it's going to look good for a year and then there's no sustainability. We want that solid foundation there. And so I think that that's where we're looking for guidance in that supports building that infrastructure and that longevity support that needs to be in place, the skills that need to be acquired to make sure that support is sustainable. That's it.
Yeah. So at least for Antelope Valley, that's and I'll reach out. I got your email, Don. I am definitely going to reach out to you today, that we can set a meeting. And then I'll just open it up if other colleges have questions regarding the 2030 vision. Or were you guys done speaking, Kathleen, or you guys had more presentations?
I'm actually done, but I think that how I would view the role is to look first at during these first steps at the collective needs of the colleges. So rather than the specific need of a college to support a pathway or support a new way of doing things, my observation is that many of us are experiencing the same deficits and the same gaps in implementing some of these programs. We don't have enough staff. We need more TA. That's not only included in apprenticeship, it's included in half of the things I listed on the list that, we need support. We also need maps and pathways, and we need to all collectively do that for the state. So I think what I'm putting in here is I think it's going to take some mobilization from both ACTEP and I would say Tri-CECE and some of the other advocacy groups, but I listed those two specifically to really talk about collective needs. And I can send, the PowerPoint out, what resonates, what are you concerned with, what what kinds of needs do you need to move to the next level? And I'm, I'm happy to, you can also email me. I mean, I work with many of you. So I'm happy to try to compile the data in a way that would help many community colleges. Also, I have tapped some of you, and if something resonates with you, and don't worry if I haven't emailed you, I'm thinking of you. Usually, I've got your name in my brain, as folks that can help the Chancellor's Office be thought partners in some of these areas. So transfer curriculum, apprenticeship, there's these big buckets that we know if it was smoother, we would do better, right? If we could smooth things out, we would do better. So I think that's my role, is to try to just be a conduit between all the good work we're doing and Dawn, and trying to help put this all together.
Yeah, and I would say, as I'm listening to this conversation, we have a framework, for the ECE demonstration project, but I think it would be important, for that group, that consultancy group that Kathleen identified in her PowerPoint presentation, to think about like what are the various buckets of work that needs to be accomplished, and what are the specific outcomes that we want to accomplish in each of those buckets. So, like I said, some of this is policy, which will eliminate some of those barriers. Some of it is process, right? They're just process issues and practices that are in the way. And can we start to unravel? Policy will take a long time. That's a long-term project. But the practice pieces, can we unravel some of those knots, right, in short term? But we have to do that with the collective genius of this group to think about how to do that and identify who the decision makers are, the lever pullers to help us unravel those knots. And then where are the learners? What are the goals and objectives of the learners, right? How many learners are we getting on the path towards X in 6-18 months, right? A year. How are we increasing X number of learners getting on the path? How are we identifying where they are? Those are the kinds of actionable measures that can drive the project. If we can show in 6 months we're going to do this, in 12 months we're going to do that, specifically for the learners, that will also then help provide support for us from the Board of Governors to leverage and identify financial resources that are necessary. And we'll need to know what those financial resources are, so we have a sense of what we're asking for in order to drive that work. And again, I think with the apprenticeship piece, we've got a whole apprenticeship team, Gary Adams and Sean at the Chancellor's Office. They're leading that work. But we are also trying to launch some regional level support systems across the state for apprenticeship based on the launch model in the Inland Empire. And so, this group would be able to tap into that initiative in order to support the build out and development of your specific apprenticeships. But we would need to have a very clear apprenticeship strategy, right, within this sector. Right. And I know many of you are already working in that space and have it in different pieces of it. So I would stop there, and then Steve, and then Kim, and then Candace.
I would like to chime in,
Oh,
and I apologize, Steve and Kim, for jumping ahead in line. But I am a pragmatist, so I do want to help manage a little bit of expectations, because I would hate for this group to be disappointed if Dawn can't be your hero and get the funding you're asking for. I want to remind us all that California is entering into a budget deficit, and that is going to require some difficult decisions to be made about funding. From my perspective as a dean and administrator responsible for some of the largest CTE funding sources, which are Strong Workforce and Perkins, there is no new money on the horizon. And so that's why I've been sharing in the chat that there's an opportunity for you all to leverage the Perkins funding your colleges receives. There's an opportunity to leverage the strong workforce funding your colleges receives, which is significantly more than Perkins. And also, the Chancellor's Office has put together a compendium which outlines all of the funding every college receives from the Chancellor's Office. And in that compendium is a statement encouraging the field to leverage and braid the funding we're already issuing out to the system. I hope there's not a misunderstanding about my comments. The work that you all do is important. I'm not at all trying to diminish the work that you do. I want to make sure we have realistic expectations when it comes to the ask of more resources, specifically more funding. If you want support in how in being able to access Perkins and strong workforce funding, I am available as a resource for you, and so is my team, and we can help bridge those conversations with your local deans. And if it's strong workforce funding, even the regional funding, I'm willing to support you all in bridging those conversations with your regional consortia chairs.
Thanks, LaCandice. I did want to hop in here because I know that we're getting close to running out of time. And I know that Kathleen already talked about the most recent CHI grant awardees for apprenticeships. I did drop a document in chat that I had made a list because I was going to say kudos to all the statewide. There was a whole bunch of new apprenticeship awards across the state in different categories of the CHI grants. And so, progress is being made. And LaCandice, we do understand. I spoke with our, the Chancellor, Sonia, a couple months back about funding, and we understand that there's about to be, or there is a budget deficit. But then Tony contacted me last week, and Yadira and I met with him, I think it was last week. And we understand that nothing's guaranteed, but we also hope and understand that he's going to at least look for potential funding, to help out TPP, because, this has been a governor's, key, they say it's important, but, if there's no funding behind it, it doesn't really seem like it's important. But there's, we know there's no promises, but, we're trying to be hopeful. But I'm concerned because we do have on the agenda, Gil was going to talk to us about the NSF granted program, because unfortunately we do have to keep pursuing grant opportunities to help support, different levels or different areas in teacher preparation. So I wanted to give her a chance to talk about this, before we run out of the hour.
So I can keep it short, Becky, and listening to what everybody said was very, very helpful. So one thing I would say is, like, listening to you talk among yourselves, you just really have an excellent understanding of what you do and what you need to do. And someone mentioned the transfer community college CSU pathways. Now, the NSF granted award that I had gotten with Dean McManus at Fresno City College and Dr. Napoli at UC Santa Barbara was called Enhancing CCC-CSU UC Collaboration, or EC3 for short. And we had a conference there. What turned out to be so important about it is just that we opened up a conversation that had never been opened before and expanded everybody's networks. So we are actually following up. We're doing a pilot site, a web-based platform for EC3. And in there would be like shared training resources, a directory. So if you want to reach out to somebody at a CSU or UC, you would know who to contact. But we also want to have work groups in there, particularly affinity-based work groups. And I would actually recommend that there be a for your teacher pathways, or particularly for your STEM teacher pathways, that you form an affinity-based work group. You just, whatever, opt in to be part of this affinity-based work group, but it would also connect you with all the people in the CSU who are interested in working on this with you, right? You'd have like a common site where you could go to talk about ways to improve the CCC-CSU pathways, so you're not carrying on two separate conversations. And from that, you might have develop ideas that would be good for NSF granted. Now, I'm going to put something in the chat. Let me find chat's open right there. Okay, so the NSF granted has a website, but they have another website called NSF 101. And it tells you, like, if you're thinking of pursuing this, here's what we're interested. And it includes hiring staff, right, to do this. I hear everybody talking about how you don't, you need time, you need staff. I mean, you could do an NSF granted to gather all the data you need system-wide, right? You could do NSF granted to have a regional joint venture, let's say between all the San Joaquin Valley community colleges and CSUs for the STEM teacher preparation pathways. The funds can be used to evaluate the existing program and scale it into a more effective training program. It's the second list of bullets if you're looking at it. So I would say that NSF 101 is really helpful if you look at that, right? It's going to tell you that it's saying this is what we're going to fund. And listening to you, I do think you could develop some good proposals on this. And I would also say when the EC3 web-based platform is up and running, Bobby, if you don't mind, I'd like you to be my point of contact. I'll let you know when it's up and running. And then maybe you can form an affinity-based work group between the community colleges and the CSUs for the teacher pathways, and do like a joint NSF granted proposal to improve those pathways and get money to do the work that you need. So
that's amazing. Yeah. I think, and I'm just going to say that because we're talking in conversations with Cal State Bakersfield, and I'll let Kim talk right now. And I don't know if you're done, but so you're saying that we can actually apply for these funds as a collective, like if we wanted to work with Cal State Bakersfield in, their, what is it called, Kim, their department for Dr. Correa? Oh, you're muted.
I'm not sure what your question is.
So what is Dr. Correa's department? Are they education or?
They're adolescent and family education, and they work with education as well. Yes.
Yeah, one thing to keep in mind is that this is for people who do the work to make these happen. This isn't for faculty.
Right.
But it is certainly for people who are in your positions, grants and research administrators, so then you can work with faculty to make it happen. Okay, at the EC3 conference we held here, it was grants and research administrators who were invited. We did have panels and speakers. They tended to be the faculty.
Okay. Yeah, that was it. That was my question.
Jill, does that create a gap in the information that you're acquiring? I think, you have faculty who are at the forefront with students, really building those relationships and finding out what the true needs are as far as pathways and support for our students. By eliminating or disqualifying somebody for being a faculty member from participating in these groups, I wonder if that becomes a bottlenecking issue and we're losing really valuable input and information.
Well, you can have the connection and communication. I mean, part of your proposal could be a series of listening sessions with the faculty to find out, what they need. And then how could you, leverage resources, or somebody was saying smooth the CCC-CSU pathway based on your listening sessions with the faculty and with the students, by the way. You would want to really really listen to the students also.
Great, thank you.
And then Bobby, I don't know if you want to let everybody know, it's 10:56, but I know there's still like a couple of things we had to cover. I know we have, announcements regarding some of our colleges conferences, and I think Kim and then Steve had a question. I don't want to miss them.
Well, as far as the conferences, I mean, it's all in the agenda, so the information is there. We don't necessarily have to share it again.
Okay.
And I'll be posting all the resources that we have on the website with the recording of this meeting like normal.
Okay.
I'll drop it just now. Renee had sent a couple of flyers today, so I'll drop them in the chat just now.
Bobby, I just tried to upload them too. Thank you.
Okay.
Hopefully they win though. My computer's been kind of wonky lately.
Okay, I'll drop them in too, just to make sure.
And then I'll have Jane, if you want to drop the flyer as well in the chat, please do so. Feel free to drop it in there. And then, like Bobby mentioned, we're gonna be sending information after that we had.
Yeah, the only thing we didn't really cover that was on the agenda was your question about those crazy top codes.
Okay, it's a big one, but I didn't want to ignore Steve and Kim. If you guys go ahead, Steve, I know you had a question. I think it was important.
That's okay. I can follow up. I really appreciate, Dawn, your comments and really kind of how you're laying this out from a perspective of what do we need organizationally, systemically, and then kind of working our way through. So I'm looking forward to working and contributing to that process as well. And I'm just happy to have someone in the Chancellor's office who can really help facilitate this for us. So thank you for your work and efforts. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Happy to be here, and I think my experience in the field as a K-12 teacher for 12 years and a UC and administrator is I think part and parcel to the reason why Sonia asked me to join her team. So having that perspective is important, I think. So thank you.
I did want to mention that I added to the agenda the information on the workshop for the demo project that's going to be happening at CCC-TPP that Kathleen will be heading up, but it's in the agenda as well.
Yeah, I can speak to that. One of the things we're trying to do at CCC-TPP is make it more action oriented. So before I stepped into this role, I've been on the planning committee for that conference for a number of years now. And I really approached the board and said, can we make this action oriented? We want an opportunity for folks to come together and roll up their sleeves on getting some work done. And now with Vision 2030, the goal is, for those of you who've been around, it's kind of the all hands on deck model, right? So not reinventing the wheel, but let's get into that session, and we can decide if it's going to be open or closed. So it could be closed in the sense of just folks who want to roll up the sleeves and work on actualizing this demonstration project, and that actually might be my advice. But you can open it up to anyone as well who wants to listen and learn. So that's also another approach to it, because we want to build community of practice. We bring other folks into the fold who may not be, part of these conversations and want to be. Don't know who you all are, but want to know who you all are. So I'll work with Kathleen on figuring that piece out. And it's only an hour, but the goal is to come out of there with an action plan for implementing the project, and then coming back together in 6 months, every 6 months at CCC-TPP. And then of course this group would be the leadership in between those sessions. So.
Somebody let me speak.
And then I think Kim, you had a question as well when it was after Steve. Do you want to ask
Haley, it's more a statement. I really appreciate what Dawn is saying. I just think this is a really wonderful opportunity to practice, to engage in equitable practices and in developing these groups and making sure that we have some diversity among the groups. Oftentimes we find that we go into certain situations and it's always the same people. And I think we're missing a broad spectrum of input, insight, lived experiences, and really strong equitable practice. And so I'm hoping, I was speaking with somebody the other day and mentioned that Kathleen was working on this project, and they said she is a fair person. And so I'm sure that I have no doubt that she'll engage in equitable practices with you as you assemble these work groups. And I hope that you'll keep that in mind. That's it.
Oh, I don't have my thing.
Well, I will say, you know, I'm all about inclusion, and it's not just about who's at the table, but the question we should always ask is who's not at the table, and how do we get them there? So, and that includes senior veteran educators, but also, you know, first year teachers who are, you know, coming out of the field, coming out of their communities, and have had visions and thoughts about how this work should shift. And we have to honor that as well, right? Bring that into our thinking.
And I think people who are traditionally marginalized, we really need to make sure that we've got diversity among us.
Absolutely.
I did want to acknowledge that Sharon's had her hand raised.
Okay, so I'm gonna make this really quick. I don't know if Steve is here, so he will remember this as well, that Janice Perry and some of us, we pushed through for the top code for the AAT, you know, elementary teacher education. We left it because it was in liberal studies and it was a long story why it's there. And we put in 0899 and my curriculum committee passed it, Janice is it, but then we were censured by the chancellor's office. But the point is, it's a big deal. It's supposed to be a CTE top code. And so if there's something to be done about that, okay, because I think we worked on it for about a year and it's just wasted time. So maybe, Steve, maybe you know something about it, because as now, it's not counted in our data automatically. And to get your research department to say, oh, yeah, that counts. But all the people getting an AAT in liberal studies, teacher education, you're not getting, you know, the statistical credit. And so maybe Steve can update us.
I am the same. The associated for transfer all have their non-CTE top codes. So we tried to trade at the local level, and then they got pushed back at the state. So we're right. That degree that our students are earning primarily in the EDU, if they're using that one through the EDU pathway, they're not being counted as part of strong workforce metrics.
And so don't fight it anymore. We're gonna just leave it, or we're gonna do something about it. We're gonna
revisit it.
We're gonna revisit it.
Yes.
Okay, I like that. And so since I have your attention, just one more thing.
My mom always leads with no.
Wait,
My mom
no,
always leads
wait.
with no. I know no doesn't mean no. No means maybe.
But wait, because this is really on my mind. We have said back from the day from the TRDP grant, which some of us, you know, have hung on, you know, that many years. There was something about high school kids doing Education 200, which is a very important course. And we were told we cannot have that in high school because there's recency with the field work, this and that. So I never wanted to ask the CSUs what's their policy on that, because I know that people are doing it anyway. But I think we need a uniform policy, because we're being pushed, you know, that freshmen in high school, they should be taking these courses. And I think that there's some courses they could be taking, but I don't think they should be taking Education 200, but we're not consistent about it. And I did ask, because our friend at Cal State Fullerton's leaving. So I asked her, hey, can students take Education 200 in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade? She said, we have no policy on that. So, you know, we were told that there is a CSU policy on that. So we need to know what it is, because we're being heavily pressured to have high school kids take a lot of these courses and penalized when we don't go for it. So maybe I can get an answer.
Well, and given the fact that there's a new, you know, effort around dual enrollment, early college credit, right? You know, our goal of Vision 2030 is 12 credits of dual enrollment upon graduation from high school. So, you know, there's some new energy around this, and if there's some policy constraints, let's revisit those policy constraints. Let's find out if is it policy or is it practice? Because my experience is practice often is you know, cloaked under policy, and it's not always the case, right? And so let's unpack all that. But then also, if it's policy, let's figure out how we bring the systems together to get some alignment around that, right? Our chancellor Our chancellors are talking along with the president at the UC system. They're all three very connected and all aligned on the mission, particularly CSU and the community colleges around this work. So I'm the type I'm very optimistic. I'm not Pollyannish, but I am very optimistic about what's possible. So when you put the right people at the table who have the same goal and objective, right? In this case, driving our economy, preparing pathways to those traditionally minoritized communities and learners into our profession. So.
Meaning Education 200, just to clarify, is 45 hours, and that takes a big chunk out of what students do when they have to do 600 of them when they transfer. 10 hours is, that's fine. I mean, I don't have a big deal about 10, but 45 hours is a big deal. So we would probably need to be proactive on this quickly.
That's great. And if you can send me any background materials and information on that so I can get up to speed on that, I would appreciate that.
Okay.
Veronica raised her hand. You there, Veronica?
Hello, thank you. Yeah, thank you for holding this meeting. And I'm sorry my camera's not on. I'm actually traveling back home from a spring break trip, so I apologize. But I really appreciate all the information that you're sharing. And my ears perked up right now when EDU 200 came up, and this may seem very minor in regards to the large scale goals of Vision 2030, but it's actually really embedded in every step a student takes towards completion and transfer. The 45 hours for EDU 200, I think that every college, every community college program may have different relationships with local partners such as elementary schools and school districts, and the practices may vary across the state, but if the state chancellor can have a topic related to endorsing and supporting access of students, practicum students that complete field experience in ECE classrooms, it could be over 100 hours of practicum they complete for a transfer degree or a local degree at a community college, as under the supervision of a qualified mentor, as well as the EDU 200 students completing 45 hours of observation. If that could just be endorsed a stronger way, in the same way that credentialed students are welcomed into unified school districts and elementary schools, it's a given. It's accepted that credentialed students must have entry and access to work as a student teacher. And our community college students face a lot of barriers, both in screening, live scan, fingerprinting, that is not affordable for them. And that's a barrier towards completion and retention of our courses. And so if that can be prioritized, because it is a requirement of the course, and some schools are very open and accessible, and others may just not be as familiar, but if that can be a statewide priority to complete that course towards transfer, it would really help a lot of community college students and instructors.
Yeah, Veronica, this is not a minor issue. This is exactly the kind of win that the demonstration projects are looking for. And so if whoever in this group is kind of leading that effort can draft that sort of just that single one-page concept paper that I can roll up to Chancellor Christian, we can move on that. I don't guarantee anything, but other than the fact that I will move these items for you to the right people and advocate on your behalf to move this work. We're having similar kinds of conversations with the board, with the BRN, the Board of Registered Nurses, around what are the policy and practice issues that have been getting in the way, and creating that partnership, right? We want to sign an MOU with them that says, and we've already sort of verbally agreed that we're going to do that, to partner with them to get rid of these unnecessary historical barriers, right, that get in the way of providing communities opportunity. So yes, and yes on that. And, we'll figure it out with this brain trust on how to move that work. There will be a small group of us that I'm going to invite to speak to Sonia directly around this project. Obviously, Yadira and Bobby, you'll be part of that, and Kathleen, and probably Renee. I would say Steve too, probably. But we can come together in advance of that meeting with Sonia and really lay out what the opportunities are, what the issues are, and then how we need to move together collectively to move this work.
I think that's a great idea. And I was just gonna say, because we're all, like, as you can see, down intertwined together. I work with Shannon, and I was just asking, I have a question on the top codes, which I didn't ask. So everything is coming to, we're all kind of connected, but each one of us have the different barriers that we're facing. And I think, like Veronica mentioned, the 45-hour one has been a continuing issue. And I'm speaking just because I teach at Rio Hondo, that selective course of education. That has been one of the biggest barriers I've been facing. My students have been facing the 45-hour observation. So I agree with you. And I think Shannon and Vero, I mean, if you guys want to, just kind of, we can, pick up of each other and we can work together and do a draft or something, because this really needs to get done. I think this is one of the biggest ones. We want to do enrollment, right, and having our students and juniors and seniors, and that's one of the biggest issues. And that's all I'm going to say, because then I can get heated.
I'm wondering if we can look into some kind of development of across systems, across district fingerprinting, because fingerprinting is really a big issue.
Yeah.
And if we can find some way to create a system that runs across districts, even just in certain areas, our students are having to have multiple fingerprinting sessions done for an area of maybe 20 miles. Because of the different districts in our area. So that might be something to look at as well.
It also gets into that MOU, that these are not student teachers, they're not getting paid, they're not interns. And I know because we're online and we've been this way, since the year 2000, we have maybe 150 districts we deal with, and we can't have MOUs with all of them. It'll never happen. And sometimes students are not allowed in unless we have an MOU, and I have to send them elsewhere. And it's usually from the school secretary who doesn't understand this is not student teaching. And I think that has to be part of it too, because we have a teacher shortage, and all these teacher programs were started because of the shortage. And this is one of the reasons people don't want to go into this stuff again. Another TB test, they already have 7 of them. Okay, that's all.
So I'm going to chime in just for a second. It's been awesome to hear from you all. Some changes that I've been making, because I'm a little crazy. So when I hear barriers, I kind of start thinking about what can I do for a solution. So I use dual enrollment as an advantage, and I created a grant that now I'm getting paid and my students are getting paid through. But what it allowed me to do was to create MOUs through those high schools for the elementary schools that are connected to them. And so I'm utilizing all of that process to create solutions from some of our barriers. My students that are now taking those 45 hours of field work for dual enrollment through those high schools, I'm specifically training those teachers. Those students are coming to all of my events. They're working alongside my college students. And those students are getting paid as a mentor through workforce dollars, so that we can ensure that if we're going to have dual enrollment and these younger kiddos are going to be completing those 45 hours, that we're properly training through the process and they're earning scholarships as they're completing through high school. So if anybody has any questions on that, I know we're getting towards the end of the time, let me know. I already just sent out the grant that I wrote to Kathleen, so she has it. So let me know if there's any questions. And if anybody wants to plan with me, I'm always up for some new crazy ideas to find funding for our students.
Congratulations, Shannon. That is so awesome.
And yet again, another example, right, of exceptional solution, right, problem solving that's happening that could be scaled across the state. How do we pull this into the demonstration project to say, we want X number of, entities to adopt this model over X period of time to be able to move the work. And this will result in this many, students, et cetera, right? So
but then
that's the key.
We can't forget that there's an ed code or something that says there's recency in student teaching, and you don't want your students who you've promised something, and then they get to their credential program or right before, they say, oh, those hours don't count. You did them too early. So we need some consistency and some promises that these students are not going to be thrown out. Like during the pandemic, we got great cooperation from all the CSUs about what counts for field work. after that, they all will accept different things and it's complicated.
Yeah, we need that consistency for sure across systems.
We do have
Did
one
you
more
try
raised
pissed
hand.
off?
Oh, sorry.
Hi, everyone. Oh, hi. Thank you, Bobby. I was just going to echo what Shannon stated. We have a pre-apprenticeship program with our dual enrollment CCAP agreements, and they do take EDU 200 as part of their course sequencing, which they do end up with industry certification, the 45 hours. But we pay them to take the class, and we pay them for their field work. It is a pre-apprenticeship. We have workforce development funds in partnership with Oakland Unified School District. The students came up with it. It's called the Oaktown Leaders pre-apprenticeship, and it's pretty robust and exciting because they are able to transition on to our apprenticeship program. We have been doing this since 2017, so we understand that youth need to be paid. And what is wonderful is the dual enrollment through our CCAP agreements are free. And so many of them may have other goals, from teaching. We want them to be teachers. That's the goal of all of this. But they're doing incredible things as they continue to matriculate. And we place them in the mentor teacher classrooms, which is really cool too. So yeah, so I just wanted to say, if there's a will, there's a way. And if there's funding, you could do so many things. But thank you, Shannon. You just inspired me to share that.
One other thing I want to note too that's pending is that you all are probably familiar with K-12 Strong Workforce Program, and that those funds support the K-12 CTE program. So every year, I was a K-14 TAP managing the Bay Areas along with Sharon Turner. So one of those 9 across the state. And after every round, we come together and we think about what are the changes that need to be made in that program for the next round. So some of the changes that are being that are already sort of pre-approved, they haven't been finalized yet, but the recommendation is that the prioritization be given, or that extra points be given to proposals that are aligned to Vision 2030's priority sectors, and education is one of those. Another positive consideration will be for youth pre-apprenticeships as well. So we're encouraging applicants to write towards those priority areas in order to ensure that that improve their chances of being funded. The local selection committees will also be encouraged to prioritize that in their approval of those applications. And then, of course, there's a strengthened college partnership letter, which says that the colleges are going to do this work with the K-12s in a very explicit and specific manner in the work plan. And so thinking about how these conversations and these efforts can be connected to that K-12 work in some sort of way will be another important piece of this.
I would like to encourage maybe taking a look also when we look at dual enrollment at the strengths and deficits in before and after the bell, or during and after the bell, or before and after the bell. I think that really needs to be addressed when we determine what we're going to be doing with dual enrollment.
Yeah, Kim, I'm trying to think of it. There's an agency out there that provides before, during, and after school work for students for K-12. Can't think of the name of the group. Someone may think of it. If you can remind me.
Which one, Don?
They're out of the they're housed out of the foundation. Well,
is it Teaching Fellows?
No.
Because Teaching Fellows is Central Cal, and then you've got like Woodcraft Rangers is Southern California with YMCA. I mean,
no, this is a statewide organization. And I'll think of it. I don't think it's CAN either, but sorry, I can't remember the name. But one of the things that the CEO and I talked about was that they are a natural pipeline into teacher programs, because they don't have a pathway beyond kind of site supervisor, actually inclined to go into teaching education occupation. So, as I talk about how we identify those incumbent workers, like where are the workers that already exist in different agencies that we can then next level up into the teacher pathways, and that is one of those
have
agencies.
To look at community too. Because
Yes.
every community is going to be diverse and have diverse needs. And so pulling from that pool that you're talking about, I think is a great place to start. And then also identifying the needs of each community, pulling from the community for their input when it
Yeah.
comes to this.
Absolutely, without a doubt. Yeah, I can't think of the name of the org, but I'll come up with it.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Sorry, I was gonna say maybe Bobby got disconnected, but go ahead, Bobby. You're muted.
Me? I was wondering, Kim put in the chat the acronym CAN. Is that the group? Is that supposed to be the statewide group that he was trying to think of?
I
I
don't
don't-
think that's it.
I don't think
Yeah.
so.
Oh, okay.
Think Together, no, right? I think Think Together is only for our region, Leia, like in our our neck of the woods on this side of LA.
Good try, Leia. None of us can think of it.
And I bet you
I
that's
am using teaching fellows with my grant. That's how I got my funding.
oh, maybe that's it, Don, Teaching Fellows. I don't
But
know.
I don't think that's it. No, yeah.
Well,
After we all hang out, we'll think of it.
I'll think about it. Email us, yeah, and it'll come
I
through.
will.
Yeah. It's 11:23. I've always, and I don't know, I told you, I said, I don't know, we always say 1 hour and then it, I don't even, I don't
We
know.
have a bunch of talkers in this group.
We're all can you
I
tell?
think we need to meet more often like we used to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we should. We've been caught up with a lot of different stuff and we haven't made the time to make a meeting. Everybody hasn't really had a lot of availability. And this time of year, everybody's on different spring breaks, so it's hard to decide when to stick a meeting.
Yeah.
So we'll try to do better again this in 2024.
Yeah. Yeah, we will. I'll try my best too. I just wanted really to thank you all for being here. I thank you again for the amount of work that we do. I know it, a lot of us that are here we're here from the heart. And that's why we have been able to keep this work going, because it's really a love for the field and a love for our students that has us here. And so I just want to thank you all for the time, and then it's always good to just share resources and share ideas. And I want to thank all of you who have helped me on the chat regarding my question on the transfer. It's almost like I can't this has been back and forth. I called Bobby. I mean, I've been it's just something, and thank you so much for letting me know your top codes and how you guys all have it. I'm gonna pick Steve's brain later. So I want to thank you all for that.
Yeah.
All right.
So when will this group meet again? Or you're just very spontaneous? Is that the key?
No, we try to meet monthly, but we're gonna try to do it. I think we should come up with a date that maybe we meet.
Yeah,
I don't know.
we were meeting monthly and then we switched it to quarterly.
Right.
And then this past year it just got kind of out of control because we were working on other projects and things. We hit a wall where people's availability was kind of really all over the place. So if you guys would like to, suggest, do you want to meet again monthly? Do you want to meet quarterly?
Don, your new
every 2 months
project has inspired us. Now
Yeah.
we've got to start meeting.
Yeah, I think we should meet monthly.
Okay, well, we can go
Love it.
back to meeting monthly.
Yeah,
That's fine.
And Bobby, you said, I think that would be a good idea too, because Sonia likes to move quickly. And so
Right.
having this group to come together and bounce ideas off and move the work together collectively, along
Yeah.
with kind of a smaller group that we can meet in between, would be great. And Bobby,
Okay.
you mentioned that the 423, is that a pre-conference event at CCCOE? That 423 event?
Dawn, that's the one I'm doing.
Oh,
Amy,
Renee, sorry.
yes. That one is it is a pre-conference session. It's on Tuesday of CCC AOE, which I believe is April 23rd from 3 to
Yeah.
5. And that's a blend of the commission and also Department of Ed. And then Amy Smith, who's on the permit work group at the commission, she's from the chancellor's office, she's on. She will be there as well. And then Kathleen, I believe, is going to be involved in away with that as well.
Oh, great. I'll make sure I put that on my list of things to attend when I'm there. So.
Hey, Don, maybe remind Sonia, slow and steady wins the race. There's sustainability in slow and steady.
Sure thing. No, she is very deliberate, but her principle is we don't have to have it fully baked. 30% is good. If we can get 30% of what we want to do, let's roll. And then we can start to do the slow and steady along the way, but let's get some real quick wins, because the quick wins are important for us to go to the Board of Governors and say, this is worthy of investment of staff, worthy of a designation as a demonstration project, which means resources are going to be, we're going to find resources to support the work. So,
the nature of politics, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. and to LaCandice's very sobering remarks, right? We're headed into a bit of a budget delta. But, I think we can, what's important is, in order to get out of the budget deficit situation, is you have to fuel the economy. And by fueling the economy, you need to educate people, and you need teachers to do that. Right. And so, that's part of the piece. So, yeah. Thank you all for everything. This has been awesome and equally inspiring.
Thank you so much, Don.
Thanks everyone for being here.
Yeah, thank you all.
I know everybody has to go. We're only in half an hour over our time.
I'm not going to put it.
Thank you, Yadira and Bobby, for putting this together again and keeping us going. We appreciate you so much.
Okay.
Yeah, and if Yadira, Bobby, can you share the recording with me so I can capture? I've tried to capture notes, but
yeah, I will. And we always post everything on the website too. So
great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I'll send you.
Can I say something to
No,
Dawn, actually? Yes. Well, yeah, I'm really serious about, the comment that I made on the chat that, there seems to be a disconnect between our leadership and what the chancellor's office, and I may be wrong, but we recently had a visit from Chancellor Sonia, and we presented on all the successes that we have, dual enrollment and all those things, and education was not even invited to talk. And that really broke my heart, because we had so many things that we have done in education. And, there seems to be a disconnect there in our leadership, especially with CTE, because they think education or ECE is low wage. Education is not part of CTE. So there's really there's a disconnect there.
Well, I'll offer an explanation on her behalf, just kind of understanding how things are rolling out, right? So there have been, she's not even been in the office a year yet, as a reminder. There are demonstration projects that have been, being rolled out since last summer. And so those are well, and initiatives like the dual enrollment and the apprenticeship, right? Those initiatives are already like rolling out. They've rolled out the gate. And so a lot of where her focus is on those projects that have launched, right? But I can tell you the fact that ECE is a designated demonstration project. It is under our high road training partnerships projects. So it is designated. Education, nursing, ag tech, behavioral mental health are in that bucket. So those are all projects that I'm managing. And because they haven't fully launched, she's not talking about them yet, right? So her conversation that I had with her yesterday was, I need to meet with each of those projects so that she can be well informed about what the projects are trying to do and what the wins will be. And then she can roll that into her broader thinking, right? So that's where we are. And that's why this call is so incredibly timely, as it were. And I appreciate you sharing that, Leah, but I want you to know that, this is part of our core priority area. So
I'm glad to hear that, Don, because I think, and I want to say this with all heart, that I think Leah is one of the hardest working teacher prep leads that I've known. Honestly, and the amount of work that she continues to do. And I think, and sadly that, believe me or believe it, this Teach conference thing that I love and hate, it's a love and hate relationship I have with this conference, and it's all due to Leah Martinez. I still can't believe I even said yes to her. And so now it's followed me to ABC, and I'm like, hi, Leah. And so, but here we are, and it's worked wonders. People ask for it. So I love and I hate Leah for that matter, but I love her dearly. And I do want her to know, like, she's one of the hardest working TPP leads, and she has not stopped working on TV. So when, she over prepares. And I'm talking slides, you name it. So
She shows everybody else out.
yeah. But so to me, I can hear Leah, and I think that's the feeling we've been getting with the chancellors. And Dawn, that's why I asked, like, what is it that you guys need? Because we always get called in and then get pushed to the side. And that's the honest truth. And so even when I met with Anthony, I was like, but what do you need?
Yeah. What do we need in terms of, like, can you rephrase that question, unpack
my
it a little
question
bit
was
for me?
mainly like, what do you guys need? What is the purpose? And I, now that I'm hearing you speak, it's mainly, I guess we're taking it, by parts, right? We're going to focus on, like you said, systematic. And I think the 45-hour one is a big issue. I know I have it with my students. I teach intro to education at Rio Hondo, and it's the 45-hour. And then we have the, not being able to get funding because we're not considered CTE. Education is not considered CTE, yet some of us are housed under child development. Child development is considered CTE. And so all these things. And that's when I told Bobby, our programs, even when we wanted to apply for SWP, we were told no. Bobby got in trouble. I got in trouble. We got our hands slapped because we were submitting a proposal for a teacher preparation program. And yet here we are this year with no funding. We still managed to keep it together.
And that varies greatly by region.
Right.
I mean, at the time I was in LA County, and I'm not kidding. People tried to get me fired.
Yeah.
For applying for that funding.
We got
it was
Thank goodness
insane.
Antelope Valley College is not.
Yeah.
And who's making that decision from your perspective? Is that
those regional chairs, those
the
voting
regional chairs,
members of the regional
colleges?
chairs? They have like a power thing, and they decide. It's a lot like high school, just between
CTE deans.
Yes.
Right.
CTE deans.
But the message,
entirely their
They need
opinion.
to talk to Dan Ryder.
Right.
Yeah.
the message from the chancellor's office is crucial because it goes state by state. From Perkins, I served on the Joint Special Populations Committee, and it is from the state chancellor's office. That is who is the gatekeeper. And that's a message I got from Washington, D.C. So it is
on the Perkins side.
On the Perkins side.
Yeah. All right. So I would add this to our list of things that we need to deep dive into, especially if it's inconsistent. Some people are doing it, others are not. How are the people doing it? And what's the, how did they get their colleges to sign on to it? And what are the policy, issues that they were able to, I don't want to say work around, but they met the policy restrictions, right? The confinement. So I think that's an important piece. I would also say that if you read all of the regional plans, education is now built into all of those regional consortia plans, right? And so, and those are all brand new. So there's, again, I think there's a new landscape here, a new mindset around how do we align all of the work to Vision 2030. And that means the regional chairs and their consortia planning committees of those CTE deans, right? How do we have those conversations with them to shift that? Right, because I'm all about, like, let's have conversations with people. I want to know the why not, and then how to get where we need to go. Right. So let's.
Yeah. Well, actually, to be fair, Don, we did get some strong workforce funding for 4 years, and Rio Hondo actually led that, and that's how Teach LA started, Teach for LA. So yeah, we did get some funding, but slowly they kind of like weeded us out of there because they keep saying no, education is not CTE. So
One thing
Yeah,
though,
and
for
what's interesting
context,
in the
though,
Bay is
can
like,
I share
like-
one piece
yeah,
of
sure. Go
context
ahead,
too?
Renee.
Don, just
Yeah.
to know,
Do we want to stop the recording?
when SWP first rolled out, TPP was part of the